The jungle meta has shifted drastically in the last few weeks. Champions like Morgana, Diana, and Darius have been made into extremely effective junglers. Yet, the best jungler in the game right now is not a champion that was even designed for these roles and did not even receive the jungle buffs like these other champions did. Rumble has become the #1 champion in mid, top, and jungle, due to a simple buff that was meant to make him more effective into bruisers and tanks. Some players have found him so overpowered that they even take him to the support role. At MSI, he has been picked or banned every single game thus far. So why did one single change to Rumble turn him from an invisible champion that no one was touching to the best champion in 3 separate roles? This is how to play like a challenger. Are you tired of solo queue? Do you want a break from randoms in your games flaming you? Then check out Plink.gg, the best gaming group finder on the market today. It's an amazing app that analyzes all of your in-game statistics and behavior to connect you with other players of similar rank. You can connect to any profile on PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, or any gaming platform that you wish. TFT, Apex, Rainbow Siege, PUBG, you name it, they have it. Get all the new info about new games and achievements of your followers on your newsfeed and join them as soon as they start playing. Plink will give you a thorough breakdown of all your game stats along with your friends' stats. You can compare with your friends that you already play with or find new people to be able to connect with and play League. Plink and I are also going to do a free PS5 giveaway. All you have to do is install Plink, add me, and you'll be eligible to win a free PS5 from Plink. The winner will be announced on my community poll a single week after posting. So if you want to find a good support for your games and support my channel at the same time, check out Plink.gg on the App Store today. Rumble has been pretty underwhelming for most of the season. Once a staple top laner for most of pro play, Rumble has mainly been regulated to the mid lane for the last season. Rumble's mid laning potential was fantastic because he had great early game priority in order to fast push waves, bully out squishy champions, and contest crabs really easily with his early laning power. Unfortunately for top lane Rumble players, they suffered from the fact that Rumble had a number of terrible matchups in that lane. So Riot decided they would attempt to change Rumble out of the mid lane and focus on the identity of the top laner that he was designed to be. Rumble's passive Overheat has always been one of the weakest points of his play. When you're a caster champion and you silence yourself for 6 seconds, that's a pretty big window of abuse. But versus a squishy mage champion in the mid lane, the base damage on his auto attacks was so strong that it didn't really matter in the early game, as it would just basically add another ability to his burst combo. So Riot took the base damage from his passive, cut it in half, and in exchange, Rumble now deals 6% of a target's maximum HP and gains an attack speed steroid of 50%. In theory, this is supposed to significantly improve Rumble's matchups in the top lane against tanky champions and bruisers who all have a lot of max HP. Rumble players have always struggled against gap-closed bruisers. Champions like Camille, Aatrox, and even Jarvan are some of the hardest counterpicks to Rumble. Rumble is a champion that thrives off of playing in his range, dealing damage for free. When you have a champion like Camille who locks you down and forces you into fighting, you can't really do much and you can't play safely with your range. Before on Rumble, if you were close to overheating and couldn't 100-0 the enemy opponent, you would probably just die. Now, however, overheating is one of Rumble's most dangerous aspects. 1v1 matchups that he used to lose, he now handily wins with these buffs. Rumble doesn't need to fear the engaged champions anymore, he can become the engager himself and run them down. Now, why does a tool that is designed to be good against bruisers and tanks so good for the mid lane and so good for the jungle? It is because of another additional but significant buff on Rumble in the same patch, and that buff was to his E, Electro Harpoon. His E now shreds up to 15% of the enemy's magic resist when he's in his danger zone. This change allowed Rumble to continue being the insane presence that he is in the mid lane. Basically, it allows him to still do exactly what he wasn't supposed to do in the first place: burst out squishy mages. Rumble players can still take Electrocute and Ignite, and it allows them to one-shot almost every single mid lane champion at level 4. Sitting at 50 heat, E, flash in, W, and Q, and use the rest of your enhanced auto attacks to beat the hell out of them. Mid-Rumble can just straight up run into these guys and 100-0 most of his matchups. And since a large portion of his damage comes from his Flame Spitter, if he's in a 1v2 situation, it is very possible for him to be able to beat the jungler and the mid laner by himself. Rumble's effective kill range is about 90% of their full HP. So even when a mid laner's HP bar is completely full, they still have to play extremely safe because Rumble's level 4 combo can still just one-shot them. Okay, so it's pretty clear that Rumble is an extremely oppressive solo laner, but what makes him such a good jungler? One of the biggest things that a good jungler needs in the current metagame is a fast clear speed. Season 11 has currently been dominated with champions that have been able to consistently melt through camps in the jungle and use gold and EXP to run over any champion in the game. Since Rumble's passive now gives him 50% attack speed, he can just melt through the basic jungle camps with ease. Junglers in general need to be strong without items. Rumble's Q Flame Spitter has 500 base damage on itself. His 2 counts of E also have 480 base damage as well. Along with a near 300% cumulative AP scaling, just one Night Harvester makes Rumble a disgusting pick in the early game. This means that Rumble Jungle can pretty much outmatch any other jungler in the game in a 1v1 for the crab. If you hit your E, you'll likely just be able to get a kill on the enemy jungler. Even if you miss both of them, it's unlikely you'll lose the 1v1 because they still have to deal with overheated enhanced auto attacks. Just to show how broken this new passive is, Jungle Rumble players all take W at level 1. This is because with cooldown reduction runes, you can build up heat at level 1. This means that when your first buff spawns, you'll be able to immediately go into your passive. You'll be able to just start railing on the buff with enhanced auto attacks. It doesn't matter if you don't have your damage abilities like E or Q, this clear is still the fastest level 1 clear for Rumble. But remember, you have to start spamming W as soon as you start in the game. Because if you're not doing it as quickly as possible, you might be doomed to not even be able to have an ability at level 1. If you're starting blue side, you're going to go blue, Gromp, Wolves, Raptors, Red, and Krugs into the first crab. If you're starting red side, you're going to go Red, Krugs, Raptors, into Wolves, into Gromp, into blue, and then crab. Rumble has strong ganks, great matchups, and the ability to outfarm most junglers in the game. The champions that can match him in farming, such as Morg, Nidalee, Udyr, all have a difficult time against Rumble in the 1v1s. As for champions that Rumble loses to in the 1v1s, such as Olaf and Nocturne, Rumble just has the option of sitting back and out-farming and outpacing these champions instead. If you're going to pick up Rumble for the first time, there are 2 main mechanics that are very difficult for new players to master. The first is Rumble's heat mechanic. Most players tend to overheat and lose the ability to cast their ultimates at the right time during a teamfight and lose out on a big opportunity to swing the fight. Generally speaking, an easy position to hold your heat is the 50 heat mark. This is so you can access the danger zone on all of your basic abilities and maximizes your damage output in a single rotation. But there are other benchmarks of heat that you should be aware of. If you are at 90 heat and overheat using your E, you can actually buffer your Q or W before your heat makes it to 100. This still lets you use your second E cast afterwards and essentially allows you to overheat at 130 from 90, being able to basically cheat an extra ability. So while a full rotation from 50 heat will cause you to overheat, you can still technically do your entire rotation from 70 as well. Starting off with W to get to 90, and then quickly mashing E and Q to be able to get 100 heat while casting both. If you're in a team fight, a good amount of heat to hold is 30 heat instead. This is the amount that you can use your full rotation without overheating. This is important because you'll be able to have windows to cast your ultimate during that fight. The biggest thing that separates a lot of good Rumble players from bad ones is how you use your equalizer. Equalizer is often thought of as just a straight line of damage, but it is so much more than that. There are 3 main ways that you can use this ability. The first and best way to use it is to treat it like a piece of terrain. Equalizer stays on the ground for 5 seconds. That means for 5 seconds there is a large area on the ground that is a no-go zone for the enemy team. Instead of just thinking about it as a line of damage, think about it as a wall to zone off opponents. Playing Rumble in the jungle is one of his strongest points. When you're in an enclosed space like the jungle, you have a lot of different choke points to be able to zone off and force the opponent into bad engagements. By angling it diagonally, you're forcing the opponents to walk into you so they don't take more equalizer damage. When you're in the late game, this ability will be reduced down to about 30 to 50 seconds. Instead of just targeting the entire team, you can just target one of the squishy wave clear champions that they need in order to hold a tower. Then you and your team can just simply go in and take an objective for free. These are the biggest reasons that Rumble is pick ban in every professional game right now. He is insanely strong in 3 roles and is therefore able to be blind picked in any draft. Teams can't counterpick against a Rumble very easily because they don't really know what lane they'll be facing him in. Basically, Rumble is like Elon Musk. Daddy Rumble is a genius at rocket engineering. He has multiple specialties, and he can deal massive amounts of damage to large numbers of people and have big influence on entire groups. For your runes on Rumble, it'll change depending on what role you are. For jungle, always go Dark Harvest since it's the easiest to be able to stack up on. It gives you a lot of burst and it gives you the most teamfight presence. The rest of your primary tree, go Cheap Shot, Eyeball Collection, and Ultimate Hunter for more opportunities to use Equalizer. For your secondary tree, take Transcendence for increased uptime on Overheat, and Nimbus Cloak to gain additional movement speed when you smite people. For top lane Rumble, there are 2 main pages you can take. For lanes that you're often stronger in, you can take Arcane Comet to be able to have more poke and bully enemy champions harder. For matchups where champions will have a lot of sustain and try to all-in you, you can take Conqueror instead to be able to stack check opponents with your Overheat. In the Arcane Comet page, you're going to be taking things like Nimbus Cloak, Transcendence, and Scorch to be able to consistently harass enemies and to have the strongest laning phase that you can possibly have. For the Conqueror page, you'll be taking sustained runes such as Triumph, Tenacity, Last Stand, Taste of Blood, and Ravished Hunter to make sure that you're as tanky and survive as long as possible to be able to punch your opponent for longer periods of time. As for mid lane Rumble, you can opt into either Arcane Comet, but usually you'll be taking Electrocute with Ignite for the level 4 one-shot combo. For rune stats, take double Adaptive Force and Armor or Magic Resist depending on your matchup. And for Jungle Rumble, swap one of the Adaptive Force runes for a single Ability Haste rune so that Rumble has the Ability Haste in order to spam W to use his passive at level 1. For your abilities, always max Q, E, then W.